Hello, my spooky scaries, and welcome back to an all new episode of The Final Pod, where I, your host, Azra Rivers, talk all things spooky all the time. Before we dive into today's spine tingling episode, make sure to like, follow, subscribe, and rate if you enjoy the show. Don't forget to follow the show on Instagram at The Final Pod for all the latest updates. Now, let's plunge into the darkness of today's episode. Okay, so on this episode, we're doing something a little different. We're not talking about a horror movie. I know, shocker, but still in the realm of spooky all in all. Today's episode, we are dissecting the haunting Netflix documentary, Dancing for the Devil, which is exactly what it sounds like. The story begins innocuously enough with the Wilkins family, Melanie, Miranda, and their parents Dean and Kelly, but it quickly takes a dark and twisted turn as we unravel the past of Robert Shinn, a former pastor whose journey into cult leadership spawned the sinister phenomenon I'm calling the 7M frenzy. It's the twisted tale of 7M, the manipulation, the cult-like control, and the heart-wrenching choices faced by those who got caught in its web. It's a story of dreams turned to nightmares, of families torn apart, and of the sinister charisma of one man, ill, who forced these talented individuals into a dance with the devil. So, what is the 7M frenzy? Well, it all started with Robert Shinn, whose name I'm not too keen on pronouncing correctly. Like, seriously, screw that guy, so I truly don't even care if I'm saying it right. It's Robert Shinn, like ill. Well, he had a church called the Shekinah Church, which he was the pastor of, and it's something that the documentary gets into later on, as it's more so about kind of what sparked the journey and the investigation into the Shekinah Church and all that was the fact that this whole 7M talent agency management, whatever the hell he was calling it, was basically keeping these TikTok dancers that were discovered, quote unquote, by Robert in these situations which are described as cult-like situations. It's really weird, and it's so crazy that I didn't know about this, but then again, I didn't really join TikTok until, truthfully, maybe like 3 years ago. And looking at the dates and all these things, I was like, oh, so this was the beginning of TikTok. This was like when everyone kind of was jumping on the dancing trends, which we've kind of moved away from currently, or at least on my side of TikTok that I see. And so this was more so like the beginning era of TikTok, which I wasn't really part of, which is why I didn't know any of these dancers. I didn't know that this even existed. I didn't know what a 7M was. And watching this truly was like disturbing and just creepy, and it was so gross. So his aim was obviously to recruit the dancers from TikTok and offering them this whole, this like dream of stardom and fame, and kind of being able to hone in on their craft and get paid for it, which is, we as creatives obviously love the work that we do, and to get compensated for it is even better. To wake up every day and say, oh, I not only make X amount of money, whatever the case may be, but I make this money while doing exactly what I feel like I'm meant to do in life. And that is something that's, enticing to a lot of people without really doing too much research or knowing and being young and being unfamiliar with the industry, and having this leader just come in and say, I'll give you the world and you're still able to do what you love here. Like, and so I see kind of how it's enticing and how it could be sold to someone, but it obviously comes at a really, really high price, and a price that a lot of people won't want to pay. But unfortunately, these dancers, these we don't even know how many members there actually are, but these young people fell for this dream, and it really took a toll on them. It's crazy. It's so insane to think that people really have the heart, or don't have the heart, in this sense, to like not manipulate and abuse people, in the sense of ripping everything that they love, live, and breathe for, and holding it against them. It's just, it sucks. The allegations, let's pluralize that because it's not one, against Shinn are quite chilling. They revolve around sexual assault, coercion, manipulation. There's a lot in the documentary that is said and touched on that I won't touch on here, for the simple fact of being aware of like the audience and the people that I'm speaking to. So watch the documentary if you want to know everything. I'm going to focus on certain things here and there. But today, I'm going to focus on the Woking sisters, Melanie and Miranda, who began their journey together on TikTok. I believe they had an account. I'm not sure if it was the Woking sisters or Woking sisters. And they would create dance videos together, right? They were always together. They were kind of slowly blowing up on social media with the turn of the age, and YouTube and vlogging, and they were kind of dibbling and dabbling into everything until they settled on the TikTok dance scene. If I'm correct, and I may be getting this wrong, but I believe they both started by joining the church, and Melanie had gone to a couple of things here and there, but Miranda really was kind of more drawn into everything, and I don't want to say more easily manipulated, but that's kind of the vibe you get. So she was more so coerced and fell for the trap a little harder and faster than Melanie did. And because of this, Melanie started to feel that something just wasn't right. And the tipping point was she was heading somewhere. I think she was going to meet up with some friends or something like that, and she hadn't been called to Robert's like all holy service, which was something that you had to be invited to, and if you weren't invited to it, you couldn't just show up. And so it was like his daughter had finally called her this one day that she was actually just busy doing something else, and made her feel like like you have to come to this this service, you have to be here. If you're not here, it's like disrespectful to Robert, whatever the case may be. She gets this phone call and she's like, fuck you, like I've been to church before, I've gone to different services, and I've never been contacted by someone of the church that is like, get over here right now, you have to be here for this service. So she's like, red flag times 1,000, I'm out, I'm done. Unfortunately, she's not able to convince Miranda to leave with her, so Miranda stays behind. I think from there on, we get into like time starts passing, and Miranda starts distancing herself from her family. The sisters are not posting together, so Melanie kind of starts going on doing her own thing. Miranda starts doing her own thing with like Shekinah Church and 7M, and this is where things really come to light, because the family senses that Miranda is point blank period not who they know her to be as of right now. She's acting really out of character, they're not speaking to her much, they can't really get in contact with her, and it's just not something that she would do. And I'm not sure if this is before or after. I think the incident with that it leads up to is that their grandfather passes away, and he was supposedly really close to the sisters. And on the way to the airport, Melanie and the family are updated on Miranda saying that she is not going and she can't leave because Robert's doesn't think it's good or something like that for her. And so with that, Melanie's like, you have to be here. Like, it's gonna be extremely disrespectful, and like, how dare you not be here, whatever the case may be. She does not show up. Melanie goes home by herself. Miranda doesn't show up, and then I think she then debuts this like short bob, blonde hair. She's gotten rid of her natural brown hair, which she shares with her sister. I believe they're twins. And yeah, she's now just a completely different person. She had claimed that she had COVID, which was, I guess, like just the easiest cop out that you can give someone. Like, I have COVID, I can't fly, I can't leave, I have to quarantine. And so it kind of just falls apart from there. She doesn't show up. They start to realize that things are not right, and I think from then on it really starts the investigation by her family as to like, what do you mean you're not coming? This was someone who was like a father to you, a second father. And you know, it's really telling to the family. It's like, there's obviously something going on that she either can't speak on or doesn't want to speak on that is not okay, because the Miranda that we know would have showed up. Like, their grandfather was their best friend, whatever the case may be. We're introduced to a couple other dancers and their stories. And then I think two other families, maybe one other family, who are just kind of trying to piece the puzzle together so that they can make a case against Robert. That's really what the basis of it is. The documentary is exploring the entire, I guess I would say, quote unquote, phenomenon of more so Robert Shinn and his horrible dealings and how he treats these people. But we also get, you know, the case building and the contacting authorities, reaching out to organizations, which was so sad that it was basically like, there's nothing we can do about it. They're grown, which I get. I know there are laws in place, and as the documentary describes, it's not really illegal to have a cult. Where it becomes illegal are the actions that are being done against the members inside. But if there's no proof, then there's nothing that they can do. They can't just walk in and say, you know, these people say this. There's no evidence. There's no proof. We're taking you guys out. You know, they're consenting adults, and that's where it gets hard and sticky, which sucks. But I think a lot of it is stressed upon the fact that, you know, how it was done was so twisted and cruel that, like, it's so clear what this man is doing. Like, something has to be done. But anyway, throughout the I believe it's 3 parts. Yeah, it's a 3-part little documentary series, and there's many different things that are touched on that go beyond the dancers. We see of 2 sisters who speak on being part of the Shekinah church, and it's really sad because you see so much of the psychological trauma that he's put onto one of the women. And it's crazy because there's a scene with her and her sister, and she is sitting there. Again, I'm not talking about the Wilkins sisters. These are 2 sisters that were part of the church, like, even before them. And they're having a conversation, and she's like, you know, you didn't even show up, like, for, I believe, her daughter, her son. She's a kid. You didn't show up for my kid's birthday party. And she was upset about it. And so her response was, you know, I don't really know how to love anyone, and I don't know anything outside of the conditioning that I've been put into to know that, like, oh, I'm supposed to love your kid and show up and be there for the birthday and be there on time and make myself present. And it's really heartbreaking to see that moment between them 2, because you see, like, the trauma and how broken dealing with Robert Shinn really made her. And I definitely cried, because I was like, just to think that you don't even know how to love your sister and her child, and to have that real raw moment in front of your sister where you tell her, like, I don't know that not showing up on time or even showing up at all or not showing up at all affects you so much, because I don't know how to care. Like I don't care for it, so I don't know how to do it. And it was really telling to the psychological standpoint that he leaves these people in. I loved that they do kind of get together at one point and they serve him at the restaurant, and they walk in and they throw these papers at him and his people, and they have this really uplifting moment where they're able to, I mean, even though they don't do it themselves because it's too much obviously to see your tormentor, but having people come together and stand with them and be on their side and serve him those papers was so gratifying. I mean, I know as of right now there are no criminal charges or anything really against Robert Shinn, but I know that it felt good to them, and that made me feel good that they had their little moment. Yeah, it's a really twisted story. It's a really interesting and fascinating documentary, especially when you think of the fact that we're all on this app and all we see are the videos that people post and don't ever know what's beyond the video, right? And to know that these things like torturing or having these girls massage you or whatever he is doing to them, which was just so gross, all in the name of them trying to live out their dream and become honored and cherished in their craft, is really just, it's just insane to think about. And so, yeah, recently, since the buzz of the documentary has come out and has really gained some heat on social media, it forced Miranda to come out and make a video, which she kind of states that, like, she's been working on her relationship with her family and everything has been okay up until the release of the documentary, which she felt was very one-sided, as she says, which also truly shows that she hasn't watched it. And if she has watched it, she only really watched like the first episode, which was heavily based on her family's point of view. And it goes to show that she hasn't seen the rest of it, because I think if she had seen the rest of it, it would be very evident what is going on around her and would hopefully try to snap her out of this. But she did this video. She stated that for some time her and her family have been working on mending their relationship, and because of the documentary she feels like it's going to put a strain on anything moving forward, which is like, girl, please get over yourself. The documentary was, yes, heavily initiated by, the video that the Wilkins had posted on social media, or they had like went live, which was, exposing kind of the lack of communication and how they've been feeling and what they've been experiencing while dealing with Miranda and her time with Robert and in 7M. But it goes so much further than that, right? And for any listener who has seen the documentary, you know that everything past episode 1 is really more so about Robert Shinn as a person and the cult and culture and what he's brought around him and has built around himself that is a facade of the person he truly is. It's very evident that Miranda has not seen this video. She has gone on social media numerous times to give these statements of her being well, her being in a nice home with her husband, who I will not even speak about or give the time of day, because I truly believe in my heart of hearts that he is like hand in hand with Robert, and he's a big reason as to why she's being kept there. I think if she hadn't met him in this, which is clearly, and I know is like an arranged marriage or whatever the case may be within 7M and Robert's ways in his cult or whatever the case may be. And I say that because a lot of the dancers who are in the documentary, you'll see have like dated each other, or like, you know, like everything was just kept very inside, and that is weird and very standoffish for me. But um I I don't know what to make of her videos. I mean, the craziest thing about it is that she does look perfectly fine. I think there's moments where she kind of looks like if she's pleading from behind her eyes, but I think for the most part, she's putting on a very, very, very good front, and it's very believable to her not her family, but to certain people, which is why she's still able to keep the social media presence and still make the videos and still kind of be this public figure that she is definitely now because of the documentary. Yeah, I think it's really sad. She seems to be really under his spell, or you know, she's doing her best to not get in trouble with him and not really ruffle any feathers. Like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if she truly is at that point of brainwashing, or if she really can't get out. It's sad. I hope the best for her. I hope for peace for her family. And you know, it's crazy when everything is put together in a documentary versus in like little pieces. So again, I will state, and no, this is not sponsored, go watch the documentary on Netflix. It's going to give you everything. It's going to obviously put it together better than I can, or better than I have, but I do these episodes as my brain works, and my brain works in a mile a minute, and I just kind of throw things together and try to make them work. But yeah, it's telling of the control that he has over her specifically, and it's scary to think of how long he's going to have that control if no one really steps in of authority, or if she doesn't ever snap out of it, which I hope she does, you know. And I know her family's going to stick by her regardless of anything, because if and when this does blow up in her face, she's going to need them. And so I know they're going to be there for her, but it's sad. It's sad that they would rather be forced to, you know, entertain her delusions than be able to stand up to her and really push to get her the help that she needs. Because if they do that, she'll turn on them and she'll kind of just cut contact, and they don't want that. So, you know, it's sad. It sucks. It's wild. I hope Robert Shinn goes to hell. Anyway, as I stated, you know, throughout the documentary, we hear from the other dancers that kind of got out of the whole thing, and it's really quite chilling. They mention and they talk about the massages, which we all know exactly what that means and where he would make them touch. Don't need to get into it. And it's, you know, again, as I said, because he took their dream and he abused it. And it's just, it's a sad thing when you see that their passion and their fire for their craft and their art was completely drained from them by this evil person and this horrible man. I did like that the documentary highlighted their life after. We see that Melanie has met, you know, her fiance. We now know that they are married, so congratulations to them. And we see that the other dancers have started companies, or they, you know, they teach dance and whatever the case may be. So they were able to kind of get it back and find their love again for their art, which as an artist, I just can't think of someone coming in and just taking what I love and using it against me to the point where I can't even fathom, you know, writing or making content or doing whatever the case may be. It's really sad. But it's great to see, you know, that some of them were able to get out and some of them were able to rebuild and rebrand. And I know Melanie, who I follow on TikTok, is now, you know, posting her life again, and she's sharing videos and collaborating with people, which is really cool. I'm Team Melanie all the way. So hey girl, hey, if you hear this, we love you over here. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more to unpack, and definitely, again, give the documentary a watch if you can. It's pretty quick. I think they're about 45 to 55 minutes an episode. There's only 3 episodes. I've been keeping up to date with the story as much as I can as it continues to unfold. And yeah, I'll keep doing that. And if anything big pops up again, I'll definitely hop back on the mic and get you guys that information. Again, I think it's crazy that these cults are able to kind of, move around the world and not really have any repercussions for their actions because of how they conduct their services, quote unquote, under the guise of a church or a management company, and then just slowly trickle all these things into your head and into the person that you are to shape you into someone else that benefits their purpose that they believe are like people of Christ or whatever mumbo jumbo they spew in order to tell people that they need to lead them. And it's unfortunate that there are people who fall for it. But I have hope for Miranda. I have hope for all the people that are still in there. I feel like the way social media is today, if this keeps building and building and building, it's going to blow up. And yeah, I mean, I hope it blows up in his face, and he deserves nothing but the worst in life. I truly think that from the bottom of my heart. I think people who do things like this are gross and downright scary, which is why we covered it on today's episode. That's really it for today's episode. I hope you've enjoyed this first episode, not based on a horror movie, and know that more topics like this will be in the future episodes. I'm going to get into cults, more of them, conspiracies, all the mumbo jumbo that makes everyone stay up at night and kind of can't shut your brain off when you're trying to go to sleep. So yeah, I'll see you soon. Remember, stay spooky, stay scary, and we'll talk